let's start off by, can you introduce yourself, Ruth, please?
Yeah, sure. So, thank you for having me. I'm Ruth. I am the chief exec and artistic director of an organization called In Place of War. So for the past 20 years, we've been working with music, arts, and creativity as a tool to make lasting change in the world and to challenge the status quo in places affected by conflict, climate change, and social injustice. And for us, the power of music is one of the most transformative tools I believe that we can use to galvanize people, build community, make a change, give people the opportunity to express themselves. And that's something that's kind of underpinned all of the work that I've been doing across the past 20 years.
Oh, you've done this before, haven't you? Um, that was like an AI robot version.
How's that for an elevator pitch? It's old. Why do we sign up?
Well, that's all from SoundPower this week. Okay. So, but I mean, you've been on my other podcast, the Electronically Yours podcast, and we're very, very, very good friends.
Yeah.
And I'm also an ambassador and a fellow of In Place of War, which I'm very proud of, and I tell people constantly about it.
Thank you.
But there's some projects going on at the moment that are very contemporaneous. Ooh.
Wow.
That going on at the moment, in other words, that are totally relevant to the podcast. So what I'd like you to do is, before we get on to the more generic stuff, which is going to be a surprise to you because I never sent you the...
It's all a surprise, Martin, at the moment.
Yeah. Can you just explain to us the current projects that are to do with sound and sound art? I mean, I suppose, yeah. Well, carry on.
Okay. So, I mean, I guess it's really where to start. Our work historically has been in places affected by conflict and using music as a tool to give people voice, to bring people together, to create safe spaces where people can be creative and maybe challenge the status quo, or maybe even imagine the world that they want to see, using the arts to kind of imagine what that would be like and to kind of rally people around those thoughts. The project the biggest project we're doing at the moment is in a completely sort of different area, and it's in the area of climate change. And it was really inspired by a frog. So we basically, in the pandemic, we were in touch with some scientists and some ex-combatants in the Colombian rainforest, and they'd been collecting the sounds of frogs and bats and birds and all sorts of different kind of aspects of the biodiversity in the rainforest. And basically, we were asked what we could do with these sounds to tell the story of the rainforest and how best to protect it. So we essentially gave the sounds to a bunch of people like you, Martin, and people like Brian Eno, and they created these amazing pieces of music. And we released a record, and it had some great feedback. And people were saying it's a great way of understanding what the rainforest is, the story of the rainforest, and why we need to protect it. And we then sort of left it there. And then we got a phone call from the president of the University of the Arctic, a guy called Lars Kullerud. And he said, I've heard this record, it's brilliant. Can you do the same thing for climate change? The arts is an incredible way of reaching people's emotions. And so far, the science is there, but it's just not working. People are switching off to it. People are not engaging. And so I said, oh, okay, that's really massive. That's a huge ask. And it's not my area of expertise. So I basically spent the next year having about 2 conversations every day with climate scientists, activists, artists all over the world, Indigenous people. And I kind of built this sort of network accidentally of people who were operating in this space, and then brought everyone together on a massive Zoom with 80 people. And it just felt really powerful. All these people with all these amazing expertise. And what could we do together? And there was a kind of unifying idea that music can be a tool to make change. Music can inspire people to think differently. And so let's create a project that does that. So we created Earth Sonic. So Earth Sonic is a project that uses music to tell the story of climate change, and to do that in really meaningful and engaging ways to inspire action, both personal change and systemic change. And so that's what we've been doing. So that's kind of the backstory. And then I guess through those conversations I was having every day, I had a conversation with a guy called Jacob, and he said, come to Greenland in 3 weeks. And I said, okay, all right, let's do it. Let's go. Let's see what's going on. And he was like, you can't really do a project about glaciers if you've never seen one. And you can't work with Indigenous people if you've never met them. So I rallied together a group of people, which included Bicep, one of the biggest electronic bands in the UK right now, a Japanese beatboxing monk, someone from The Guardian, a journalist, Luke Bainbridge, and a kind of small crew of people who work in our organisation. And we went to Greenland without really knowing anything. And we went on this amazing, I think for me, it's the most impactful trip I've ever been on in my life. And I've been all over the world, very fortunate to have done so. And this trip, we were seeing these glaciers, these tsunami glaciers. We were seeing Indigenous culture and we saw a music festival take place in one of the most remote places on the whole of the planet, in Sisimiut. And it was really incredible and impactful, and learning the stories of what climate change looks like now. And then Bicep kind of went away so inspired by this trip that they created a body of new music. They created a drum kit made of the sounds of the glacier, and they then collaborated with 7 Indigenous Arctic artists and have created a project called Tukuk, which basically tells the story of the Indigenous artists, tells the story of climate change through a body of new music, which is truly collaborative, and a film, immersive film, which we premiered at the Outernet a few weeks ago. And now it looks like that film is going to go to over 50 different venues across the world.
Wow.
From Greenland to, oh my gosh, to Belgium, to Brazil, to Australia, and, to all sorts of spaces, from museum spaces. It's going to be projected back onto a glacier in Greenland. And the idea is, to engage as many people as possible. And I think that's it. This project for me is really special. It took 2.5 years to make it. And it was an incredible collaboration between Ninja Tune, Bicep's management company, This Is Music, between us, Earth Sonic, and then everyone we know, basically the journalists, even young people, everybody feeding into this. And I think we've produced something that, at the end of the premiere, everybody was in tears across the room. It was so beautiful, so impactful. I've never seen anything like it. The soundtrack is full Bicep, but then, you've got a Greenlandic rapper, or you've got a throat singer, you've got this kind of other dimension to it. And then the stories woven into it are telling you about what we're losing, about not just from a climate perspective. Well, it's all connected. We're losing languages, we're losing cultures, we're losing experiences and wisdom that have been around longer than capitalism, that have been protecting the planet. And that is the message that people go away with. And it's not telling anybody, you need to do that, this is what you need to do. It's people going away thinking, oh, wow, this is profound. And what do I get from that? And what can I do with that? And I think for me, that's the power of the arts. Sit people in a room for an hour, have this collective experience. Everybody goes away, and art is something that, Banksy said it, didn't he? If art doesn't change you, if art doesn't stand for something, then it's just craft. And I think that's true. I think art needs to have some kind of purpose to it. And so that's one of the biggest projects we're doing at the moment. We're about to go to the Amazon to do a very similar project, working with women and women's voices in the Amazon, telling the story of water in terms of floods and droughts, and do a big project and put women and women of colour and Indigenous women right in the centre of COP30 in Belém in the Amazon this year. And again, using music as the magnet to bring people in and to tell those stories. And I think through the work that we do, it's all about sharing hope and positivity. The science is it's so depressing. Like, as if you immerse yourself in the science for a few minutes, it's kind of it's like, well, we may as well just give up, kind of thing. Whereas actually, if we celebrate this, we can be the change, and this is what we're fighting for. Like the brilliance of the planet, the beauty of nature, and the dynamism and the brilliance of humans. It's like that together is worth fighting for. And I've just seen time and time again music playing this role where it can have the power to make people think differently, change the way they are. Since being in the Earth Sonic project, I've completely changed who I am as a person. So this is like, we're sort of maybe 3 years in. The food that I eat, the way I think about travel, the way we deliver the events that we do. We do fully plant-based food. I'm generally plant-based when I eat. I generally try and do slow travel where I can. These are all things that, it seems crazy to me now. This is going to sound funny. The idea of eating a lamb is crazy to me. It's crazy. And this has happened because of this project, just thinking about what I can do and how I can make the change. And also, that feels really good. It makes me feel like actually just in a tiny way that I'm doing something positive. And I think through this project and the learnings, I think that's really helped me.
Wow.
But so yeah, they're the projects in the kind of climate space. We have a music archive, we have a sound archive, and we've been collecting the sounds of the planet and, having them as a resource that people can use to make music with. We have projects with UK venues where we've got 8 grassroots music venues, and we've got music recording devices that people can go and record the sounds of the biodiversity in their communities and make music with those sounds. We're taking over the Manchester Museum, and we're going to have loads of people there who are making music with nature, people who are making music with the biorhythms of plants. Got Groove Armada, who are farmers in their spare time, playing in the Mammals Gallery. We've got another project which is around creativity and young people, and using creativity to help young people become advocates for the change that they want to see. So for me, the power of creativity, the power of music, and the power of sound it's everything. It's the kind of, what's the word? The center of that project, the epicenter.
Right. Well, okay. Cherub. By the way, I just want to say, Ruth, you are my spirit animal.
That's so kind. You're mine. You're mine.
Cherub, Tim, ask away. Talk.
Well, I'm just blown away by that whole story. I think this project is amazing, and I love what you're doing, bridging global electronic artists with indigenous sounds. So that's exactly what the world needs more of, so that digital soundscapes can meet these ancient sound practices and traditions. And it really, you hear a lot, especially recently with everything that's going on, about social justice and how important it is that we fight for what's right. But what you're doing and what this whole project represents is a form of sonic justice. And what you're doing is all these lost leaders that are silencing the voices of our ancestors. They're choosing who gets remembered, who gets listened to, who doesn't get the voice. And through this project, you're giving these almost lost voices a channel direct to us through the very palatable and relatable medium of music, which is the universal language, which we can all relate to and we can all understand. And then placing that project in the epicenter of the corporate city, jungle London, out and out. Me and Tim were there the other day. It's a great way to broadcast this message. Full support.
No, thank you. And do you know what? It was really powerful. We brought one of the indigenous artists, the Greenlandic rapper Tarak, to come and see it and then participate in a panel after and then perform. And his, those screens, those screens are just incredible, aren't they? His face is there, doing his thing. And he was watching it, and he was like, wow. And in the panel, he said, I wish that every single person in Greenland could see this, because it's so powerful that our voices have this platform. And I just felt like, do you know when you're doing a project and you want to do it right, and then someone says that and you're like, yeah, okay, we did it right? Because when we went out to Greenland in the beginning, we didn't know what we were going to do. And originally it was like, Bicep, we're going to do a thing. It was all about Bicep. But then we sort of learned, actually, the story isn't Bicep. The story is the indigenous people and their culture and their brilliance and their, there's an artist on the record, and she speaks Umi Sami, and it's a language that only 30 other people in the world speak. And the film, the immersive film, it contains an interview with her dad, who's like the custodian of the language. And it's these things that are really powerful. It's like those languages contain words that are so specific to those cultures that we're losing, because it's this kind of like eradication, this kind of, the Starbucks, ification of culture. And it just feels so completely sad, because hanging out with the Katerina, the Umisami artist, for me is always like, it's incredible. The things that she says, the way she sees the world. She says, when I have a feeling and I want something to happen, I put it out into the world, and I know that every other Indigenous person feels that feeling. My friend Igor Cavalera, he recorded an album with a tribe in the Amazon, and he went out there and he was staying with the tribe, and he said, I was ready to record the music, I was ready to make the music and write the songs. And he said, okay, let's go. And they said, no, we have to go to sleep now, and we have to let the song come to us in our dream, and then we can create the song. We're merely the vehicle, the vessel for the song to flow through. And it's these kind of approaches which are really so anti-capitalist. They're so collective. They see us as being not the center of the universe, as
Not everything is profit driven.
This is
What we
it.
need to remember.
This is it. Everything's profit driven, and it's not working, is it? It's completely broken. And actually, when you look to, I've been learning about Indigenous culture since I was a kid. My dad was really, really very, very into Indigenous knowledge. This idea if, you go and take something from nature, but you don't take too much. You make sure it's protected. You make sure it flourishes, because you need it. And actually, we live in these urban environments where we're so disconnected that we don't even know what that would be. We see food as a thing in a supermarket. A lot of the time, kids don't know where that comes from. So I think, through these kind of projects, we can remind people, at least, that this area.
One of the most pernicious things that have happened in the last 5 or 10 years is this demonization of the word woke.
Yeah.
I think it pretty much, in a nutshell, sums up the dysfunction of the world as we stand. So, by some magical demonic possession, one word has managed to encapsulate the demonization of rectitude, of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
That is as powerful. I always say to people, words are insanely powerful. Much more powerful than apart from politicians who understand all this, obviously, and great poets, great writers. Words can alter our perception of everything and corrupt everything if we're not careful. So I was going to make a joke and say, after your big speech said that, oh, that's the most woke thing ever. But then
Positive way.
You know who coined the term, the word woke originally?
No.
Erica Badu. And I saw
Really?
I saw an interview with her recently where she was questioned about how does she feel about the demonization of that word, that all of a sudden it just encapsulates everything other than kind of what she originally meant it as. And she said the very same thing as you, that it's just been used as a way, like the same way that one would turn a conspiracy theorist. You just shove everything under that, including climate change, just gets shoved under the conspiracy theorist hat, and people don't take it so seriously. And that's what's happened with the word woke as well.
The right wing are really good at that, doing that with language, aren't they? They're really good at that's one thing that they do very well, is let's put all of that here, and that's woke, and let's just trivialize everything to these kind of just one word, demonization. Which, I'm woke. Let's do that.
One, you've not said anything yet. What do you think about all this?
Well, I'm so blown away by what you do and your tenacity to keep it going and to expand it. How did you actually get into it? I mean, obviously you're inspired by what is going on and you're doing your bit, but it's remarkable how you've then gathered a team and you've expanded it. I'm curious because even those are hurdles and obstacles to a degree, aren't they, in this day and age?
Yeah, I think no, totally. I think it goes right back, and I'll do it really quickly, to when I was a kid. You know, my dad, when I was a kid, when I was growing up, my dad told me about a guy called Tony Wilson from Factory Records. And he said, this guy said, you can either make money, make history, or make art. What are you going to do with your life, Ruth? And I said, oh my gosh, that's a really good question. And I thought, what do I want to do? And I was like, I mean, I was 11. I was in the Socialist Worker Party. You know, I was like, so you know where this is going to go. I was like, I really want to challenge the status quo. I want to make change. So that's kind of underpinned everything that I did. I was in a band when I was younger. I started a record label when I was 20. And then I made a kind of alternative music industry event called Unconvention, which was all about kind of showing what we can do together as independent artists, as independent record labels, how we can, you know, how we're stronger together. This idea of not just do it yourself, but do it together. And I created an event in Salford and then took that all over the world. And there seems to be this real that it was a time when music was going digital and the record labels were freaking out and, you know, and doing it all wrong, the majors. And it seemed to have this traction and momentum. And I guess through all of that work, we were all of a sudden starting to see where music was being used as a tool for social change. And for me, there was this absolute pinnacle moment in Medellin in Colombia, in Comuna 13, which was considered to be the most dangerous city in the world when I first went there 20 odd years ago. And I was watching hip hop being performed in this place that was, you know, one of the most gang affected places in the world. And this guy said to me, if I didn't make hip hop, I'd be dead. And hip hop has given me this alternative choices. And I was like, wow, like I enjoy hip hop. I didn't know it was that powerful. And I started to dig a bit deeper. And in this city of Medellin, there were like nearly 3,000 hip hop artists in different collectives across the city. And it was giving people, anyone who was making hip hop wasn't in a gang. They were choosing hip hop, almost like a sort of religion in a sense. It was giving people a way to express how they felt, a way for people to battle, but without guns. It was a way for people to form these communities of positive support. And you'd see these like tiny kids right through to adults making hip hop. And that was really impactful for me. It's like, okay, music can do this other thing. It can do something so profound. And so throughout all the work I've been doing, which has led me to build the organizations, has been about how music can change people and music can shape people. And you can speak to anyone from like a really famous music artist, like I give the you know, someone like Ed O'Brien from Radiohead, to a rapper in Colombia, and each one of those people will tell you an equally compelling story about the impact music's had on them. They're from two different contexts, communities, you know, but they will tell you that music has in some way saved them. And that I've heard that story so many times. So it's like music has this power, this magical power to do this thing. And so I met a professor, James Thompson, 21 years ago at the University of Manchester, and he had this idea about a project called In Place of War, which was, why do people make art and music and theatre when bombs are dropping? And if they do, then why is it important and what does it mean? And so we looked at that in this research context for a number of years. And then I spun this out of the university and created In Place of War, which is the umbrella organization for all of the projects that we do all over the world. And so it's been hard. It's not been easy because, of course, we're building an organization that's about art as a vehicle to make change. And all the funders are like, what? What is, okay, in a context of board, surely people need shelter and aid. And it's like, they do, but also, you know, to take it forward, to take things forward, you know, art is, for me, art is a human right. Everybody should have the opportunity to experience it and to make it essential. Because, and I interviewed loads of people around the world, and loads of people said in the most critical times of conflict, I interviewed an artist called Malak Mata. She lived in Gaza. And she said, in the times when I was in my room, I could just hear the bombs outside, I just painted. And that painting enabled me to survive because it took me out. Sama Abdul Hadi, a techno DJ from Palestine, when she DJs, that's her therapy. She's forgetting, she's escaping. So it's like music has an escape when you're right in the front line of the conflict. And so for me, it was kind of creating an organization that sort of helps to build the communities around that and create opportunities and spaces for people to be able to create and have and make change.
But there's also, I mean, I've been on several trips with you, and I've seen it in action, and it really, really works. This isn't some kind of nice to have. This actually makes a massive fundamental difference to these people. I'm not just blowing smoke up your ass, Ruth, but you are the core of it all. I mean, you are the engine that drives this thing. It's your concept. You are the curator. No, I know. No.
Just an amazing team of people.
No,
And I mean, an amazing board. There's amazing fellows. There's a global music industry advisory board, a youth advisory board. There is an absolute ecosystem around this, and 130 changemaker organizations around the world. Everybody working together around this. So it's I'm supporting here, but representing a whole load of other people.
Yeah, of course. I just wanted to mention one thing which really impressed me when I first started working with you, which is this idea, which went kind of parallel with the kind of more headline stuff. Like we went to, what was the name of the place we went to in Zimbabwe?
Makakobra, Bulawayo.
But that's it. And we created a hip hop album in a week with people who had no money, sometimes no shoes. What they had was they could listen to generally American hip hop on the radio, and they just made their own version of it, which was actually much better, using their own language, using their own street language, and things like this. But in parallel with that is all these places we went to Palestine, is that in place of war gives people the tools to teach people, to teach other people, and plant seeds, which then spread in these different communities. And I think, although it's not the big headline thing from all this, it's so important that it gives, it's kind of like a positive feedback loop that gives people hope, right?
I think just one really, really clear example of that I think is I think we're really proud of is we were invited to go to South Africa to a community in Cape Town called Lavender Hill. So the people of Lavender Hill are mixed race, and they were forcibly removed during apartheid from their beachside houses in Cape Town to behind Cape Town, to this kind of like barren, dusty, deserty place, which essentially looks very much like a council estate in the UK. But it's the most dangerous community, perceived as the most dangerous community in South Africa. There's gangs in the community. It's very, very, very challenging. All the things you'd expect: massive substance abuse, massive unemployment. You've got like 7 people living in a room. It's high density. There's no opportunities, and no one goes there because it's very, very, very dangerous. And we were invited there, so we went, and it was incredible experience to meet everybody in the community and see this place that's perceived as really dangerous. And then you meet everyone, and everyone's so friendly. And I sat around and I had a lunch with a whole load of people who'd been to prison and so on. I met the gang leaders, I met the kids, I met the parents. And the one takeaway was that every single person in that community was like, we just have to do what we've got to do to survive for our kids. We don't want to do this, but this is what we have to do. And after I left a few days later, there's a big battle, what they call the battlefield, in the middle of the community, and the big battle broke out and a load of kids were killed. So kids were being killed frequently. So we said, well, what can we do? What would you like to do? They were like, we want to create a space where people can be creative, and the kids can have an outlet to be creative and do sport and grow vegetables and make music and do all these things. So after a lot of work and a lot of complexity, we've created a space in the community made out of converted shipping containers, a multi-unit space, which has a huge garden. The garden is doing so well that they're producing too many vegetables for the community. Amazing. They have an amphitheatre, an auditorium. They have music spaces, dance spaces, and the whole of the space is built on the battlefield, right? So this is where everyone used to go out and fight. And the space is protected by a bullet-resistant fence. And when you're inside the space, you're basically safer than you would be if you were outside. And also it's like the kids are in here, so no one shoots inside, like, you know, and it's this space is engaging 500 young people a week, and you go there and you see the kids dancing and you see the kids making music, and you just kind of, it's just so hopeful. And you are now see people from outside the community coming in because there's this activity happening. And for me, there's the one thing about engaging young people and keeping them safe and giving them creative outlet. There's also another thing about changing perceptions. So let's get a DJ from Cape Town coming in and doing a DJ masterclass, which has happened. And then the DJ goes out and says, I was there, everyone should go there. And it becomes, and then it starts to make the change, because the people in these communities feel so isolated. They literally, when we were doing the build, we said to the contractors, you know, you come in, you bring the shipping containers in. They were like, no, we're not going there. We can't go there. We'll die. And so that how hard it was to actually make the space in the first place and to get funding to make the space. You know, thank you to the Limbury Trust, the Sainsbury's family for supporting it and taking the risk. But it's now so brilliantly successful. The community own the space. It's run by one of the community leaders, Adele. She's amazing. And it's just transforming, you know, and I think that's what these projects can do. You know, they can offer a safe space where people can be creative and build their own community and further themselves and become community leaders. Without these spaces, people are just left to fight. And I think that's a really tragic situation. At least now there's an option.
I think the other thing is, and one of the things that really impressed me was this idea that all these different places in the world, you know, Brazil, blah, 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 you know, Uganda, you were going to at one point, and you had this idea, I remember talking to you about it, of taking the most motivated and talented people from the different areas and helping them, using In Place of War, to reach out, not in their minds to other parts of the world, but also literally transporting them to other parts of the world so they could be evangelists for these positive ideas. That's such a powerful notion, because, you know, I often think, you know, obviously Brexit is a perfect example of what a small-minded nation Britain has become generally. You know, it blows my mind that I mean, we travel a lot. We're very lucky people, but we made our own luck in that respect. We have made the decision to experience other cultures. There are an awful lot of people all around the world who know nothing but their own culture. And so another great thing about what you're doing with In Place of War, music is a universal language anyway. Hip hop is the lingua franca of rebellion.
Yeah.
It makes perfect sense, all this stuff to me. Have you got any comments, Tim Cherub?
Oh yeah, I'd just like to add on to that as do we as sound healers, we see music as this balm for the collective nervous system. So every time we make music, we always have this intention of to awaken, to heal and transform, and that's the energy and essence that we're pushing out when we perform. So when you think about the work that you're doing in all of these different places all over the world, Earth Sonic becomes like a version of kind of global recalibration through sound, because what you're doing is rippling out into that small community. But we hear that story, it gives us hope, it makes us want to do more. Everybody who's listening to this podcast right now, we're going to have a lot of sound healers who are listening, who are also going to want to be getting involved in projects like this. So I guess my question at this point is, I know you touched on it earlier about how you start to live differently because of your involvement with this and how you've changed your diet and the way you travel. What is your intention with each of these projects? For what reaction do you aim to spark in the people who hear about it, beyond generating awareness? What is it that we want to trigger so that people can start taking action? Because I'm listening to you and thinking, God, I'm not doing enough. What more can I do? And I'm sure everybody who's listening is gonna think the same. So in your experience, what small changes can we make, and how can we contribute both to Earth Sonic but also to this great global mission?
Yeah, great question. So with Earth Sonic, we have on the website, we have a section where people can have a look and they can kind of understand this kind of the key changes that they can make, which have the biggest impact. Which really interestingly, if you change your bank and your pension to different pension and banks, you will have a bigger impact than anything else that you can possibly do in terms of your personal change.
Done. Next. We can all do that right now.
Amazing, shame, no and shame.
So if you go on the website, you can see what you can do. Changing your electricity providers to sustainable providers like Ecotricity, Octopus, great moves. You can eat better. You can eat more sustainably. You know, meat for a treat. If you can't go, you know, vegan or vegetarian, I've come from a life of eating meat. So for me, I'm just bit by bit, gradually getting there. And considering how you travel. I went to Amsterdam the other day from London, and I went on the train. Oh my gosh, it's so civilized. It's so brilliant. My default says just get the plane there. Yeah, get the train is brilliant. It's lovely. It's just, you don't have to queue. You just get on it and it's great. And it's actually like thinking, you know, a lot of these things actually make more sense. And so you can do these personal changes, and we've got a whole bunch on the website on earthsonic.org. In terms of the more systemic stuff, we're sort of trying to do calls for action around the various projects we're doing. Going forward, there will be some really clear things that people can do to try and make systemic change, to rally around kind of helping to get decision makers and policy makers to think differently. And that will also, again, with every campaign that we do, that will be really clear and really easy for people to get involved in. In the wider work of In Place of War, the stuff that we do in places of conflict, we're really keen to engage with creative people, whether that be artists, musicians, whether it be organisers, people in the music industry, creative industries. We're really keen to work with everybody that wants to be involved. And I think, you know, we're a small organisation, but we have a big weight because, you know, we have 35 of the best people in the music industry sat around a virtual table, 4 times a year, helping us. You know, we have amazing supporters. So, you know, and there's people volunteering, there's people becoming interns within the organisation, there's people lending their expertise, becoming mentors to people. We have a programme called Hack Music, which is where we give small grants, music equipment, mentoring, education programmes and placements at Terminal 1 at Glastonbury for grassroots people around the world using music to make change. It could be archiving Indigenous music in Peru. It could be women and girls making music opportunities in DJing in Uganda. And we give all of those things to 6 organisations a year. And we need mentors. We want people with experiences and expertise to come and help support these organisations. So maybe go and lend their support physically. So essentially, long story short, just get in touch and let us know how you'd like to help and what you can bring, you know, to the table. We also have a community of climate activists and artists that we're building, particularly, intergenerational. We've got a focus, it's being led by a young person, Emma. She's incredible. And we're trying to build momentum everywhere that our projects happen with Earth Sonic. We're gathering young people to form groups of kind of artists and activists working together, having conversations about what they can do, and essentially trying to build a movement through these projects. So if you're a young person and you want to be involved, please reach out. Just send us an email. We can signpost you to be actively involved. And if you want to be a champion and a leader, we can help you to do that as well.
Wow, you heard it here first, guys. Just reach out to Earth Sonic, bring your resources, bring your gifts, bring your skills, bring your ideas. It is a time for us all to unify and come together. And maybe that is the true essence of SoundPower. We cracked it, Martin. I didn't know why we started this podcast, but with every single one we do, we're getting closer and closer to the nucleus of what it is we're aiming to bring together here.
I mean, literally an hour ago, I was talking to a friend of mine who was invited my company Illustrious to get involved in a consortium to look at the positive change that the AI, I know AI, listen, I'm one of the biggest critics about AI and creativity, but how they can use AI to bring creative communities together across the whole of Europe. I mean, this is a massive consortium. It's like, 10 different nations. It's EU funded, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, it looks like it might happen later this year, and we're going to be one of the main partners. And one of the things they're looking at is creating these similar kind of thing to what In Place War does, is like creative hubs where people can contribute, because people feel isolated more and more now, right? Creators, you know, for want of a better phrase, bedroom artists. You know, I spent 5 years doing education at MA level. I mean, being a lecturer, etc. And the things I saw with young people were largely a lack of confidence, because they don't really have the networking capability, and B, they just want to. People, the human condition is that you want to share your creativity, right? If you're just shouting into the void, eventually you'll lose interest. So it's about bringing people together. I hope this podcast helps with that. But the reason I mention it is because my colleague Paul Hollins, who's in charge of this from the University of Bolton, he said maybe we can leverage the power that you're going to be generating with the SoundPower podcast to create a community, which really ticks a lot of boxes when you're applying for funding. You know about all this, Ruth.
Oh,
It comes with everything. So we're all, it's like unions, really. We're all more powerful if we join together and do this. So that's another great thing about SoundPower that we're going to be working on in the next few months.
Yeah, every single guest we've had on so far, I want to be involved with everything they're doing. It's really speaks to what's necessary for global change, the idea of unification through the healing and transformational power of music. So amazing to be able to be connected, and for our listeners too, to find out about Earth Sonic and our other guests. It's a wonderful thing, and I'm sure you're only just getting started, Ruth, as well. There's probably so much more to create and share.
no, totally. But no, it's a real honor to be part of this podcast, and I think you're completely right. I think it's all about building opportunities to build communities and to be able to share art, connect with each other. You know, to do. Sorry, my dog. Sorry, my dog
Oh,
on the podcast just towards the end.
what's his name?
Socks.
Docs, that's right, yeah.
There he is. Hello, Socks. Sorry. So no, I think that's it completely. It's always about for me, community is everything. I have it tattooed on my back from the first event that we made in Medellin in Colombia, Hagámoslo juntos, which means in Spanish it means do it together. And this idea of like, when I went to Brazil, I mean, Martin knows, he came to Brazil with me. He saw some of the incredible collective movements in Brazil. And I think this idea of, this guy said to me, Felipe, from an organization called Media Ninja for Odoatio, he said, in the UK, you think about I, from when I've been growing up, Ruth, what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you going to go to university? What are you going to do? All about just me. But in Brazil, they say we. What are we going to do? How are we going to address these situations? How are we going to work together? And in Brazil, the power of collective is so strong that they have like collectives in prisons. So if they want to change a situation in the prison, they can change it, because they have almost, it's like unions. It's like they have unions in prisons. They have collective living situations across Brazil, and it's really powerful. When you see a protest in Brazil, you know, they're huge protest. They can change. They did make changes in government, where they've had coups in Brazil, where they've had unelected governments, where they've had, incredibly right-wing and dangerous governments. They have pushed and they've managed to make change. So I think there's just something that's so powerful to me about, you've got to unlearn. And it really is about unlearning. When you think about, I've got to have a mortgage, and I've got to have a house, and I've got to have all this stuff, and I've got to have all these possessions and a car and a holiday every year. It's really shifting that. And it sounds really woke, going back to that beginning thing. It sounds really woke to say, what if we all lived together? And what if we all worked together? And what if everyone was paid fairly? And I live here in Reykjavik, and I live in this place which is really socialist, where the minimum wage here is like $30 odd an hour. You know, people are, I walk through the streets, I never see any homelessness. I never see any addiction. Everyone's okay, and then people say to me, oh, but it's a small population. Okay, but so you just scale it, right? So the thing for me, the most basic thing that can happen, sorry, I've gone on a tangent, but the most basic thing that can happen is that people receive fair pay, because then you can afford stuff. You don't have to go out and do other things, and you can access things like healthcare and, you know, all these things that you need as a human, and to become more nurturing communities. And that's so through all of these initiatives, like the podcast and like In Place of War and Earth Sonic, I think what we're trying to do is build communities of support, you know, to make positive change, to make a more fair and just world.
Yes. Ruth for president.
Not my vote.
God, can you imagine if you were prime minister? Jesus Christ, what a difference it would make. Well, even
I love it. Oh, it'd be so radically different. It'd be so different. There'd be none of that booing. That's the thing that really annoys me, is when I watch the Parliament thing and you hear the men booing when someone talks. I think it's the rudest thing that I've ever seen that exists in. It just shows it all for what it is for me.
It's lost leaders, just little kids in grown-up bodies fighting and squabbling. And what you've just expressed there is we're entering into a new paradigm. They're still in the old archaic paradigm of me over you, or me at the expense of you. But what you've just expressed there, which is happening in Brazil and seemingly in Iceland, is this new paradigm of we, no, me versus you, only us, only one. And that's the message that needs to be pushed out more. And if that could trickle up to the leaders, everything would change.
the thing about, you know, the Parliament in the UK is it's all performative anyway. I mean, it really is. The two cheeks of the same arse, you know. It's not.
I've never heard that saying before.
Have you ever heard it? Come on, you're from the north.
Never heard it, but now we'll use it frequently. And you too. Two cheeks, same walls.
Got any thoughts, any insight?
No, I was just recovering from that, actually. I think it's wonderful because I love the aspect, and I totally agree with you. Always collaboration is so much more powerful, but also naturally, and quite naturally, you're also empowering the individual. I mean, in such a potent way. And you're spreading. I mean, ultimately, what you're spreading is happiness. I mean, you know,
Yes.
what more is there? You know, apart from you want to make people more content, happy, etc. So it's a wonderful thing, and let us all be part of this. I agree with you. Yeah,
Absolutely. So yes, I'm just looking at the themes, none of which we've touched on. So,
Good job, Eric.
no, it just means the podcast is working, to be honest. So I'm just looking at these things. I mean, let's talk about the function of sound in various cultures historically. I mean, we've talked about hip hop is the new version, but Cherub and Tim, how can we apply? What have we forgotten? How can we apply the wisdom and knowledge of past cultures to contemporize it for today's young people? There's a good.
My response to that would be making sound just for sound's sake. There's this huge gap between performer and listener in the West, where we pay people to entertain us, and you're either a singer or you're not. You're either a musician or you're not. And there's just no middle ground where people can just express themselves either vocally or musically and experiment with their own creative expression, which then takes them deeper to the deeper layers of their own soul. In the West, and I realized this from many years of traveling, is that in other cultures, the ancient ancestral songlines have been passed on through timelines, and that's very much what you're doing, Ruth, with this project. Is you're helping to revive these ancient songlines. We've kind of been severed from our ancestral connection in the West, and we don't necessarily pay attention to what's gone before. It's all about pushing forward and modernization and movement and progress. But actually, if we just learn to blend the ancient wisdom of all of our ancestors globally, not just from different pockets of various cultures, but learning how to just simply express ourselves the way that many tribes today still would sing up the sunrise, drum down the sunset, chant, sing over the food, give vocal blessings, singing babies into the world, singing the elders on as they do their final homecoming back Back to the Stars, sound, expression, vocalization, music, just for the sake of it, just for the sense of it being a revival of community spirit, that togetherness that music brings, that's been somewhat severed and lost, I think, in the West. So to bring it into the contemporary would be just to really encourage people to explore their vocal layers of expression, and also to tap into the origins of their own original sound and that of their ancestors, whilst leaning on the very expressive nature of many other tribes and cultures that still do this present day.
Wow. God, you're on fire. Everyone's on fire. Hey.
We're on power.
Martin, can I just say something really quickly, just in response to that? We did an event at Brian Eno's studio last year, and we had Charlotte Church, the singer.
Oh, yeah, Charlotte. God,
And she got everybody to sing, and she got everyone to do this kind of like improvised singing, and it was amazing. It was just amazing. It's like I don't know. There's just something about collective singing that is wonderful. You're part of it. You're part of the band all of a sudden, you know. And I think we don't do enough of that. I mean, wouldn't it be amazing if every meeting we had, we started off with a bit of improvised singing, you know?
oh, it's so woke.
It's so woke. I said it and I was like, that's really woke.
Well, we did every gig we do before we start, we hum together, don't we, Tim? Every show, we were recording yesterday at Talyard Studios. We hummed with our producer before we started. Let's normalize that, you know, coming together, getting in a circle, putting your heads together and humming to a line. It actually feels tribal. It feels deeply resonant. It's a great way to connect in seconds. So it works, you know, and I think that is what we need to do, is demystify the belief that only sound healers or singers sing, or it can be for everybody and it's free and accessible to everyone.
Well, it really worked at that meeting that we had last year. You know, everybody's it's very English, and everybody's a little bit kind of hesitant and like, oh, is this for me? Is everybody else going to do it? You know, 5 minutes later, everybody is singing multi-part harmonies and semi-improvised lines that are contrapuntal, and you know, it's like, don't think about it, just do it. You know, it was really quite an amazing experience. And Charlotte, obviously, she's a great singer, but she's a good soul, and she understands the power of she understands people power and sound power.
She was amazing. Her presence. It was the first time I'd ever met her, and I felt I had known her forever. You know, it's just having that presence and being able to stand in front of a room, and I don't know, you can't not sing when she's asked you. It's that amazing presence.
Get her on the podcast.
100%. The excitement she gets from it as well. You can see she buzzing, she's in the zone, and it's just really, it's so wonderful to see. She'd be perfect for this podcast.
Absolutely,
let's make that happen. Yeah,
let's make it happen. Oh, you know Charlotte as well.
Yeah, we're friends. We've gone up and done a few events at her beautiful retreat, The Dreaming in Wales. Highly recommend anyone to go there. It's pure magic.
The Dream.
Pardon?
What's it called?
The Dreaming.
The Dreaming.
Really
beautiful place. It's like it's like a Lord of the Rings backdrop, isn't it? It's absolutely exquisite. Both rock, mountains, and valleys before you, and beautiful house, of course.
Oh, it's amazing. How mums have a go at that.
And she is a very dedicated musician. You're right, and to her the causes of her heart as well. You know, very much, which is obviously what you are doing and what we are.
Well, together we're stronger, aren't we? So
yeah.
Tim, do you have any comments on Martin's question? I'm aware I answered it and you didn't. Just about what we feel we need to do to reconnect to the voices of our ancestors or anything along those lines.
Well, I mean, I'm with you actually on the collective singing, because that is actually something we do, obviously, when we do performances. And as Charles says, we've kind of now refined that to a degree to humming, which is much easier. There's also an awareness as we do it that people are, as Martin suggested, not always used or shy to use their voice. But overall, as we all agree, music is this extraordinary communication, and it is a language of the spirit and the soul. And your work, as you can see and say, totally inspires people to have this understanding. and particularly if the topic, coming back to your very topic, because we're talking really more about climate change as well, aren't we? And many issues collectively within society. And so I think it's about what we are all doing is re-identifying the potency and the power of sound to not just entertain, which of course, we all love, but it is this extraordinary, or it has an extraordinary ability to empower and to embody itself into in a very therapeutic fashion within people. So it is self-empowering for people. And as I think I just said as well, I mean, beyond even the collective union, which is, it's so wonderful that you're expanding. It is this individual growth that you are seeding at the same time. So it's a beautiful thing. And yeah, I mean, Jeremy and I are great believers in the potency of sound, and like yourself, yeah, hopefully we're as dedicated as you are. Because,
Oh, that's a nice thing to say. Right, we're coming to the end, Chris, but I have to ask you some questions that I'm going to be asking all the podcast guests over the coming months. What's your favorite natural sound?
Is this to me?
Yes.
Water?
What kind of water? What form?
So there's a couple of things. I remember once when I stayed in Brazil, and I stayed near the sea, and I could just hear the sound of the waves. And I always remember, I think about it a lot. I miss that. Like, it was out a week, but I miss that. Just the sound of fresh running water, trickling water. It makes I don't know, it makes me feel really, I don't know, there's something about it. It feels very magical. There would be my favorite sounds. 100%.
So if I could just add to that, I know we're not on a time limit here, but I live by the river, and so boats go past a lot, and when they've gone past, is it the wake that just, we get the wake rippling onto our garden, and we just sit there and listen to it. It's yeah, one of my favorite sounds too.
Absolutely. Which kind of do you have a piece of music that engages in particular emotionally with you, that makes you kind of emotional?
Yeah, so it would be probably there's a live album of Penguin Cafe Orchestra, and they recorded a live album years and years ago, and it reminds me of my dad.
Oh,
Yeah, it's like my dad brought me up on Frank Zappa and Captain Beefheart, but that album, he would always play it in the car when we were kids, always. And I just think it's one of the most beautiful records ever, ever, ever. It's like, I listen to it. I have a playlist of the sort of music that reminds me of my dad, and it's all over that playlist. And I think that it's just so beautiful. I don't know, it's just something so happy and joyous about it, and kind of like not pretentious. Like, it's like classical music, but I can go with it. Like, I don't know.
oh, beautiful. And final question: what gives you most hope for the future?
Just I guess.
Alison, I know we're fucked. Let's take.
No,
But
I mean, as always, it's just the best humans that love, the humans that believe love is the answer, the humans that believe art is the answer, the humans that believe we can do this. I think there's always going to be a tussle between the bad guys and the good guys. That's happened throughout the eternity, right? But I think, love will win, and humans are part of that, and make the vehicle through which that can happen.
oh my God, shut up now. That's perfect. That's the greatest ending sentence I've ever heard to a podcast. That's so beautiful. Thank you so much, Ruth. You are a true star, without a doubt.
Thanks for inviting me. It's so nice to meet you guys as well.
Well,
Amazing.
you're in on the start of something, it's going to
That is
like big.
amazing.
Right.
Yeah, have our full support. Our whole Global Sound Healing Academy is behind Earth Sonic. We'll learn more about it. We'll spread the word. So thank you for giving your time and energy today.
Thanks so much.
Everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.